Here's the kitchen of Mary Schul. There's Johnny. Here's the kitchen. That's where our art is about to take place today. As we're going to start filming our Joy of Cooking series. Today we begin our series on the joy of cooking. We're going to be cooking today chicken cordon bleu, which I think is right here. There's the recipe. We're going to go to the store and we're going to figure this out. We're in Crane, Texas, home of the Golden Crane. Here we are at Porter's Thriftway to get some groceries. Joy, we got a special cart here. Not as special as that one though. Some delicious asparagus.
This looks pretty fresh-ish.
This is Crane America.
You can't expect.
You have to have Crane standards.
It's not Whole Foods, that's for sure. Terrible.
How do you tell how they're fresh?
Well, the ends of it don't look like that usually.
Oh. But they all look like that.
Yeah. So we're just going to do the best we can. We're going to pick out whatever one looks the best. And we're going to go with that. Which, I'm thinking... it's not bad. If we need to, we can always just chop the ends of those off.
You know what my favorite thing about asparagus is?
The way it makes your urine smell?
Exactly.
I knew it.
My absolute favorite. We have extra money. That's what we're gonna get. What kind of cheese does the recipe call for?
Swiss or Gruyere, but I'm pretty sure we're not gonna find
What's that
it.
second cheese?
Gruyere.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure.
I've never heard of it.
I'm pretty sure I'm not saying that correct, but we're just gonna go.
We're gonna go with Swiss.
We're gonna go with Swiss.
So the recipe calls for prosciutto or ham.
Or
Is
ham.
that right?
Yeah. It's Canadian bacon, which is basically ham.
Should we go with Canadian bacon? That sounds fancier than ham. Ham seems kind of boring.
We'll make it with Canadian bacon and
Now that
Swiss.
looks better. That one looks more Cordon.
Well,
I believe.
Here's this smoked ham or brown sugar ham.
What do you think?
These look like they would fit a little bit better on the breasts. Chicken breasts.
We're all Beavis and Butthead. What about the brown sugar ham? You think that would taste good with the chicken?
Yeah. Yeah,
Let's
I
do
think
that.
so. Let's do this. Brown sugar ham.
Yeah. Seriously, salmonella is not a joke. Wash your hands carefully every time you eat.
You don't want to spread the salmonella all over your top of your sink. Make sure you scrub your hands together. Salmonella is no laughing matter. Nice warm water, soap. Remember the scrubbing part. Lather,
Scrub,
rinse.
scrub, scrub.
Lather, rinse, repeat. And we're ready to go. For the chicken itself. And then something to stir fry the.
These are fancy pots and pans.
Yes, they are. See, La Crusade.
What are they called?
La Crusade.
La Crusade, which is also Italian, I believe, or French.
It's just close to Italian.
I think it's French. I made an Italian joke at the grocery store. That was a callback what comedians call. Here are some mushrooms and asparagus.
So we're doing a sautéed asparagus, and I'm gonna add a little baby portobello mushrooms to it. I wanted to start with my vegetables first, and then I can use that same cutting board with the chicken afterwards. But the raw chicken, you don't want to do chicken and then you'd be cleaning more. So I
remember the salmonella discussion.
The salmonella discussion. It is real, folks. So I've just kind of quartered these baby portobello mushrooms after I've rinsed and dried them. You want to cut the end stalk off this asparagus, about 2 inches or so off. And you see this is, I mean, that's just not a very good part of the plant to eat. So you don't want, whoops, wrong thing, you don't want that. So throw these away. And then I'm going to continue just to cut these in about 2-inch sections, and then portion them out into my bowls, and those will be ready later on for the sauteing process. And then after I'm done cutting all my vegetables, I can move to the chicken and not worry about that salmonella that we talked about earlier. So the mushrooms, I just kind of stack about 4 of them together. Always keep your hand away from the blade. I like to have a pivot point to where I keep my knife. And it always stays on the cutting board. That way it gives you nice even cuts as long as you have a sharp knife. Just like that. Get your other group of 4. And you move the vegetables through just like a guillotine. You know, just move it into the blade, keeping your fingers out of the way, and chop.
Like a paper cutter.
Just like a downward motion. Exactly, like a paper cutter.
We used to cut people's fingers off in high school with.
So now my mushrooms are all ready to go. They've been rinsed, dried, cut, and the asparagus is just about there too.
Just like magic. Alright, back with the garlic.
So now that the garlic is all peeled, ready to go, I always like to cut off the ends because that's not a very tasty part of the garlic. So chop those off, and then to get yourself a nice diced garlic, you can make notches into the clove almost all the way down to the end. So I'm just making little slits, maybe a total of 3 or 4 or 5 depending on how big the clove is, and then just cross pattern so it's kind of feathering it out. And see how that kind of spreads out like that. Then you just take and cut a slice out of it, just like we were cutting the mushrooms.
Someone's at the door.
And see how each one of those comes out as a nice little diced piece. And you finish your thing, and you can have, you know, nice little diced garlic ready to saute. So there we go.
Now it's time for the rice.
So this is just a pound of long grain brown rice. We're gonna put the whole thing in here. Well, maybe not. We won't use the whole thing because that's gonna expand quite a bit.
What do you think the ratio of expansion is of long grain brown rice? Would you say?
I would say maybe 1.5 times to 2 times. Maybe
1.5 to 2 times.
Maybe not quite 2 times, but that when we're done, that rice is probably going to be right about the top. So that's, I mean,
We're gonna see how that prediction works out.
So now I'm going to rinse the rice.
It's beautiful sink.
To rinse it, you know, you
Mary's.
want cold water. And an old Vietnamese trick I learned from a Vietnamese family that was neighbors with me.
Is that true?
It is true.
Oh wow! I thought you were making that up right now.
I'm not making that up. Their last name was Nguyen.
I don't think you pronounced the N.
Then win. You grab the rice with your fingers, kind of in a fork out or raked out position, and shake the rice through it like it's a sifter. See how cloudy the water's getting?
That's cloudy.
I like to do that at least 3 or 4 times until the water is almost clear. Now you're not going to get it crystal clear unless you're OCD, and if you do that, then great. I'll come over to your house for rice. But in the meantime, 3 or 4 times will do good.
He will come to your house for rice too. That's true. He's speaking lots of truth today.
Another good way to tell is when you clump the rice together in your hands. Now this happens more with the white rice because the starch will stick together and the rice will clump up. Brown rice is not nearly as bad because it's the whole grain. It's not bleached white rice. But when it starts to not stick together, you know that you've rinsed most of the starch off of it. But that's why we're going with the healthier brown rice anyway. Alright, you know.
Now we have the rice over here.
So see how clear the water is after the rice has been rinsed? Now, this is also another Vietnamese technique that I learned from my neighbors.
The winds.
The winds. If you fill your water just up above the rice, now that it should be about 2 to 1, no matter brown rice, white rice. It should always be 2 cups of water, 1 cup of rice. But if you do it this way, you use your finger to measure. You put your finger all the way down to the bottom of the pot, then bring it up again and put it on top of the rice. You want about half the distance, so 2 to 1, half the amount of rice that you do water. However, if you want your rice a little bit more dry, take some water out. If you want it a little bit more moist, put some more water in. Then we're going to put the pot of rice on the stove, kick it up to boiling, and we'll be back with you later on.
So we put this, what did you put this stove on to boil the rice?
I put it at 8 because that was Mary's suggestion. Usually I would just put it all the way to high.
You put it to 8,
but
because this is a brand new stove that Mary got very recently. No, this is the stove I used to cook grilled cheeses on. This stove back when I was in high school, so it's not that old, just like me. You put this on 8, boiling the rice.
Yes, you got it.
And then this is preheating right here.
This is going to be my simmer.
Oh, that's off.
Portion.
Okay.
And so when the rice is done boiling it, since that's going to take so long to cool that down, we're going to move it over to this one, which is just simmering at about 2.5 to 3.
Oh, okay.
Because once they get hot, they don't cool down very quickly, not like a gas stove.
We learned that today.
We did.
So this is chicken. Breast of chicken. Johnny's trimming the fat off of it.
I'm just taking the fatty parts off. The white tendons, or the, just the stuff you don't really want to be eating because it's not that healthy. And that'll end up in your arteries. It's a decent piece, but that, you don't want that. Throw that away.
It's trash. Vintage garbage compactor.
Some of this fat will just peel right off. You see that? You can just throw that away. Some of it might be a little bit harder. I usually try and see what I can get with my fingers, and then whatever I can't, I'll go back and cut off with the knife itself.
So this is the first time we're doing some of this stuff. Even Johnny, who's really good at this stuff. But there's certain things that we don't know and we don't understand. We're still learning from this book. So it's really the first time we've really used this book at all. So what was your question?
So my question is, I wasn't sure, we were supposed to pound the chicken out. So do we pound it out fairly flat and then fold it over on the meat and cheese that's going to go inside it before we bread it? Or do I need to fillet it, make a cut down the chicken, open it up, put the meat in there, meat and cheese, which is, your stuffing, and then close it back up and bread it? So that's kind of what I'm not too sure about. So Todd's going to go consult the Julia Child's cookbook, and we're going to see what we're going to do.
So here's this book. We're on page 437. It says, one at a time, place the chicken breast between sheets of wax paper and pound with a mallet or rolling pin until about 3/8 of an inch thick. And then season it with salt and black pepper. And then you want to cover 1/2 of each chicken breast with 1 thin slice of ham or prosciutto, which they did not have here. Leaving space around the edges, top the ham slice with 1 slice of, we're using Swiss cheese. And then it says fold each chicken breast in half over the ham and cheese.
Ah, okay.
And press along the edges firmly to seal. An 1/8 of an inch cut along the folded edge of the chicken breast will help prevent the packet from opening during cooking. Combine in a wide shallow bowl. That makes sense?
Yeah, so it's saying pound it out and then fold it over each other.
So the rice is boiling, as you may have heard from the last little clip. So you want me to move it over?
Yeah, so just move it over to the simmering.
So this is set to simmer.
And typically the rule is about 20 minutes on simmer. But, you know, you want to just kind of keep an eye on it. Depending on your elevation, that might change just how thoroughly it cooks and how fast it cooks, too.
What happens if we boil our rice too long?
You'll probably burn it. So once it's boiling, I mean, it's okay to let it boil for a minute or a couple. I've even let it go 2 or 3 minutes while it's boiling. But soon after that, you want to move it to your simmering stove or your simmering hot plate.
Looks like it's going a little crazy still. Hopefully this is alright. We'll let you know if we have to call the fire department. So this is a new thing also that we're about to do.
So just as instructed, we're putting one of the chicken breasts in between 2 sheets of wax paper. And we're going to use this wooden mallet.
Are you supposed to use that side or the other side? Or do you know?
I made a judgment call. I didn't
Because
want
that might tear the wax paper, right?
Exactly.
How many joules of flow is tearing already, huh?
Alright, so it said it called for 3/8 of an inch thick.
Mm-hmm. Do you have your ruler?
I don't.
We'll just eyeball it. And this is big now. Did that seem like 3/8 of an inch? It looks like pretty good to me, dude.
Looks pretty good. We might give it a couple more
Wax.
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 Wax. Wax on wax.
So we should call this program.
That looks pretty
good.
It looks pretty good there.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next one. So now we have our chicken breasts hammered out to about 3/8 of an inch. I found that doing the underside first,
The undercarriage?
the undercarriage, pounding that side first helped to thin it out. And as I was pounding it, I realized if you do a motion towards the outside of the chicken breast, it worked a little bit better. So that's cool. That's something I've never done before. So now the recipe calls for just a little black pepper and salt on the breast itself. Then we're gonna go.
Is that different than white pepper? Is there a white pepper?
There is a white pepper. There's actually.
Is that called salt?
There's white pepper grains in here, as you can see. That's a mixture of different peppers.
That's awesome. I've never heard of that.
It's pretty fancy.
I'm gonna start calling salt white pepper and see what happens at restaurants, especially fancy ones.
Fancy ones. Well, only where you have a salad fork, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the rule.
That's the cutoff.
So then this is just plain white flour, and it called for salt and pepper. However, me being the seasoned master, I like to season things up a little bit more. So I added some basil leaves, some garlic powder, even though we already have fresh powder, some oregano, and I found this in the cabinet, kickin' chicken. I added a little of that to it. So the only spice I'm putting in the flour are all of those. And you just kind of mix that all up in the flour. That's got your salt, your pepper, your kickin' chicken, your oregano, your basil leaves. And just mix that up so it's nice and even. You know, have one clump of just spice and another clump of just plain flour. So now that's ready to go. I took 2 eggs, whipped them up like you're making an omelet, added a little milk to it, And that's gonna go, just to make it easier, we're gonna put this in this shallow plate to make the dipping process smoother. So it's gonna go the flour, the egg, and then the breadcrumbs. And these are, we decided to go with Italian style breadcrumbs. There's nothing else in that.
If
other
they had
than
French breadcrumbs, we would have used those.
we probably would have gone with the French breadcrumbs, but we're limited here.
How would you say that in French? I don't know. Now it's time for action.
So as the recipe calls, I'm just going to put a little bit of salt. Not too much. And pepper on the outside. On both sides of the chicken, actually.
Does the recipe say that?
It does say that.
Oh.
We don't have to follow every rule, Todd. But
Well,
but it did say that.
I wasn't saying we should follow the rules. I was just wondering if it's specified, so that people know how much to listen to it. If they want this exact Cordon Bleu treat.
So
I'm looking out for the listeners at home.
it did not specify which side to put the meat and cheese in, but I'm going to go ahead and use an educated guess and say let's put it on the side that's a little bit more rough, not the smooth side of the chicken. You see there's two different sides. This side's smooth, this side's rough.
Do you guys feel that at home?
Already got the salt. So now, this is the thing that I've never done. We're going to add the ham. I might have to cut that ham, or it might just fold over nicely with it. Let's try it. I don't know. This is the first time, so it says the ham first, then we add the cheese. Now I'm a little bit of a cheesehead myself.
Yeah, maybe 2 cheeses.
I'm thinking 2 cheeses. We're there you go. We're gonna try this out. See how this works. We're gonna do 2 cheeses. We're going with Swiss and with honey baked ham, brown sugar ham.
Brown sugar ham and Swiss.
So now it calls to fold the chicken over on itself. Now I thought this might be a little bit of an issue. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fold the cheese, fold the meat, the ham rather, kind of in the center, almost taco style, burrito style. Then we're gonna compress that chicken down over it. I wonder if scarification works. That's a medical thing. You scarify the tissue and it sticks together better.
How would you do that?
You would make little cuts on the inside. See, that's one reason I decided to use the rough portion of the underneath.
So it might stick better, huh?
Because it'll stick better. Like I said, this is a new part to me, so we're all experimenting here. The cheese is sticking out a little bit. That's why we added the extra cheese, in case some of that melts out. Alright. Now let's go through. Do you mind grabbing me one more plate out of there? Just over there on that side. Alright, so now we're gonna dip it in the flour. Try not to get flour all over the place.
The owner of this kitchen will get very angry.
Get it nicely coated. Press it in there. And the second step, we're gonna dunk it in the egg mixture. Roll that over once. Make sure it's nicely coated. And finally, to the breadcrumbs. Press it in because it says if you just give it a little bit of pressure, those breadcrumbs will stay on there easier.
The recipe say that?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow, that's a good book. Gives us all sorts of details. Makes us much more joyful.
The recipe, the book's called The Joy of Cooking. I'm going to go ahead and say just about anything you make, whether it's a cup of coffee or chicken cordon bleu, the main ingredient is love. So there...
This coffee is full of love.
I don't want to get that egg white in your... So there we go. There's the raw chicken stuffed with ham and cheese. The ham and the Swiss. And it's been coated. And that's ready to go in the frying pan. So I'm going to start this skillet over here. This is for our vegetables, which have already been cut up. We have our fresh garlic, asparagus, portobello mushrooms. The rice has been pulled off. No longer simmer. It's just on a regular, not heated plate. I fluffed it a little bit. As you can see, there's some steam coming out of it. It's got a nice texture. So that's going to be good. We're going to let that sit and just hang out for a minute so it stays warm. Then I'm going to put some butter in the frying pan. For sauteing, I usually say tablespoon and a half. If you like a little more butter, you can add a little bit more. And kind of just go from there. We'll let that start simmering and heat up. And when that butter starts to completely liquefy, the first thing I'm going to put in there is the garlic. I want the garlic to brown a little bit, to start getting those flavors flowing before I add the other vegetables. So we'll come back to this, we'll let this do its thing, and we'll get back to you guys. Alright, so see how the garlic is starting to brown? Can you smell that? Oh man, it smells delicious.
I hope you have the iPhone smell.
Those,
the I Smell app.
Those of you out in TV land can't smell it, but you can just imagine. See how the garlic's kind of browning up? That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Now we're going to add these baby portobellos.
That we learned how to quarter earlier.
And we learned how to quarter those earlier. I'm going to wait on the asparagus just because as everything cooks down, it's going to get smaller. So as the mushrooms are cooking down and sauteing, they're going to get smaller. And see, as your butter or oil, whatever you're using to saute, and the more things you put in there, it soaks up more of that. So if you need to add a little bit of butter, you kind of just do that as you go. The pan's starting to dry out down here, so that would be an indication, hey, we probably need a little bit more butter or oil. So we're going to do that. I don't use that spoon because then that whole tub will smell like garlic. Not that that's a bad thing, but...
Some people might think so. Some people in this room that I will not put on camera might think so.
There we go. Alright, so we let that sit. And I'm going to go back to finishing my chicken. Make sure your butter is not sitting on top of all the mushrooms because then it won't melt. And this stove with these pots is heating up fast, so I'm just going to turn it down.
It's a wonderful
a
stove.
little bit more. They don't make things like they used to.
Exactly. So if you can get one of these Gin Airs, it's awesome.
And even while I've added that butter, you've seen the mushrooms have already started to lose some of their water weight. They must be wrestlers. That was a joke.
In case you couldn't tell by all the laughter.
Where's the applause button, Todd? Where's the applause button?
We'll have to edit the laughter in later at the end of this program with all of our wonderful humor.
Now, if there's does that lid work? Todd, would you mind?
Whoa, it's
handing me that lid?
heavy. This is a heavy lid.
Is it too big?
Oh.
Alright, well we won't do that. So we're going to let those
What do we do if we don't have a lid?
We're just going to let them simmer instead of steam. Hey, don't eat that.
Don't let the dogs eat the...
Onions and garlic are particularly bad for dogs, as is raisins and chocolate. They cause kidney damage, so don't let your dogs eat the raw onion or garlic off the floor, please.
You're welcome for the advice.
And we'll come back. Alright, so we have the olive oil and butter mixed in there. It's been heating up for a little bit, and now it's just starting to boil. I'm going to add some of my leftover garlic to it, just to give it a little bit more kick and flavor to make that oil taste really nice. Also, it's a trick when you put that in, or just a little sprinkle of flour and it sizzles, you know that oil is ready. Can you see that? We're good to go. Drop our first one in there.
Action time. Look at that.
Actually, I think I'm going to turn my heat up a little bit. And for that size pan, I think we're just going to do two of these at a time because these ended up being pretty big.
How long do we cook these for, Johnny?
It said 3 to 4 minutes. I left it on per each side. That's been about 4.5 minutes. Just because these are really big breasts of chicken.
We're in middle school.
It also said to have a nice golden brown. So it looks it's golden brown, a little bit brown, but not too crispy. And one thing I'm wondering is if I might have
It's gonna be a lot of meat. These are big.
Yeah, we're gonna have some leftovers for sure. I'm gonna do this side, and then I'm tempted to put it on these thinner sides too, just for a little while, because the last thing you want is any raw chicken in there.
The whole salmonella thing.
The whole salmonella thing. So we're gonna cut into this one and make sure we're good. And if not, well then that's just too bad.
What are you looking for here?
You don't want any pink portion. So you see the ham is the only pink part of it. I think we're golden.
Literally.
But still.
Don't show them what I'm holding.
Yeah. Where is it?
It's this part right here. It is not done.
Oh yeah.
Which
You
it's
see
right
it
up
on this
next
one.
to the ham. So it makes it look like maybe it's just the ham.
Oh, okay. So it's just a little bit not done. So that's what you have to look out for.
So we're putting this one back in the fryer.
Let's see how we do that. That's good. We don't want any of you killing yourselves out there.
I'm actually going to put it face down like that first.
This one's resting on this side, so hopefully it's cooking some more. And this, when we cut into it, will be better.
See, that's why you follow the book, but then you also always make sure you just check and see what your chicken is doing. See, this one's even thicker, so I'm thinking this guy needs to spend a little bit more time in here. He'll stay. He's not going to stay. There we go.
Mary found it. I won't show her anymore because she doesn't like to be on camera. But she found the raw chicken, and she's the hero. So when you see us next time and we're still alive, you can write Mary a thank you note.
Or tell her, why did you save them?
Or a critical note. Do you think that, and when it's on its side, it cooks as much through it? Like to get the whole thing?
I would think so, but it seems like the trouble spots was just directly
On the sides?
around the interior of it, like right where the stuffing was.
Yeah. That's true. These solving problems is a big part of this whole thing. Great. They never show you this on other cooking shows. What happens when things don't turn out right. That's what sets us apart from the rest.
We're willing to admit our mistakes.
And make a lot of them. It's a lot of fun. The last time we prematurely put the chicken in here, that's why it didn't come out all the way. So how do we know, Johnny, when oil is ready to have the chicken enter it?
I just like to make sure it's nice and hot, so I will sprinkle a little bit of flour into it.
We turned it up last time a little bit early, and we probably shouldn't have because it kind of cooked the outside more than it cooked inside. Or you spit a loogie in it, Terry says. Good advice from Chef Terry.
Let's see what this oil does when I drop this in it.
Oh, look at that.
That means
It's a little tadpole.
Ready for round 2.
This is what you look for, or listen for, to make sure the oil's ready. Everyone listen?
Oh. Try not to splash overboard like that.
Always wear clothing when cooking, because the reason is exactly like that. So here's the final products. Here, looks delicious. The last one's cooking. We're pairing this evening's meal with this wine right here.
Fly Girl White from Vineyard Salud. That's Salute, not Salud.
Here's our final product, the Lone Star right there.
Cordon, Texas.
The wine, chicken, Cordon Bleu, straight from Italy.
Brown rice. The asparagus. Portobello mushrooms with garlic. So you see the cheese is melting out of here. I'm going to slice into this. That is what your finished product you want it to look like. Melted cheese, nice and white chicken all the way around.
She's so attentive.
Same on this side. See as I squeeze that?
Macy gives a... Oh, sorry. Squeeze it again for our audience. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
That's ready to eat.
In the morning, beautiful sight, weakens my will to leave. And I know when I meet winter's cold, I'll miss your warmth and ease. But danger brings a new day, a sure break from the mundane. With danger